Keep this in mind, brought to you by SpectHealth.com. Welcome back to Tennessee, folks. I know I wasn't on yesterday, and then, of course, the day before was a afternoon show out of my other office in Louisiana, my old office. And it's so good to be back here in what you would call the office studio. But I wanted to share with you on this Friday especially how much your attitude matters. My attitude matters. And some of the things that I've learned over the last few days and have tied back into a lot of things from several years ago. I want to talk a little bit aviation right now. So I used to work on B-52s and I used to work on the instruments. And we had two major instruments that were very important to the safety and the flight of the aircraft. Number one was the altitude indicator. What told you how far off the ground you were? The second one, even more so, was the attitude indicator, and that told you what pitch the aircraft was at. Nose up, nose down, left, right. And the two work hand in hand. Here's why. Depending upon the attitude of the aircraft would often determine the altitude of the aircraft. If you were in a nose up, you were climbing. If you were in a nose down, you were descending. And that correlates so many ways into the way we live our lives today. Depending upon your attitude will often create the altitude in your life. So, one thing that I've noticed is that many times if we have an environment of poor attitudes, the entire operation is in a descent. Now, that doesn't mean we don't look at the facts. We don't know that we're not Pollyanna. We don't necessarily ignore problems. But at the same time, if we have a good attitude about the situation, then all of a sudden we can begin to climb and we get to move forward momentum and we get to experience what a positive attitudinal direction can be. Now, many of us, myself included, often are in a bad attitude and we don't even know it because we don't do any self-checks. We don't say, hey, how am I reacting or how am I acting in this situation? Am I in a positive attitude about it, or am I in a negative attitude or a descending attitude? Think about some of the things in your life and how you react to them. Are you always waiting for the other shoe to drop? Are you always in an attitude of, I'm getting screwed? You know, there's so many people that have been hurt by someone or something that their attitude, whether they're a good person or not, it doesn't matter. They could be a very good person, but their attitude is always to be on the lookout for somebody to screw them. Or maybe they feel shortchanged all the time. Maybe they experience something in their life of being shortchanged or unloved or not loved enough. And all of a sudden they have this attitude about themselves, about their kids, about their situations. It's always from a not enough standpoint, almost a scarcity, like there's only so much of something. And if I don't protect or I don't get mine first, then there's not enough to go around. Again, these are all very legitimate things, but they can project themselves into your future and create an attitude problem, which then in turn will create an altitude problem. So I just want to give you a couple of things today to think about, especially being Friday. I love Fridays because you can come in, you can stir the waters on a Friday and have Saturday and Sunday to say, okay, I've been stirred. What do I do with this? If you have faced failure a lot, check your attitude and say, okay, did I learn from these failures? Or do I now have a attitude of failure, always looking for failure? Because what you look for, you'll generally find. Number two, in my relationships, have I encountered so many negative people in my life that their negativity has washed over me, and I am in a negative headspace and I'm in a negative relationship space. That may be an indicator of your attitude. Or are you on the flip side? You're coming into a situation with a positive attitude, but you feel like you're being flooded back with negativity. You may realize that it's time to shake up the environment, and you may have to be the catalyst for positivity. I want to share all this with you today because I believe that over the last 3 years, a lot of us have gotten into a negative headspace, into a negative attitude space. We were told what we could and couldn't do. We were told to shelter at home, flatten the curve, and then the whole world changed around us, and we don't know how to navigate, and the things that worked 3 years ago don't work today, and now we're having all of these negative things happening in the world around us, tragedies and crimes, and it's just flooding us to the place where we could have a negative attitude about the world at large or about our place in this world. I believe that we all can make an impact. I believe that you can make an impact. I believe that you were placed here for such a time as this. And if that's the case, if there is a divine plan for you at such a time as this, then you can walk into it with the attitude that regardless of what comes, I can navigate it. I can move forward through it. I can learn from it, and I can be better as a result of it. When you begin to frame your life, frame your vocation, frame what you've got to do today in that mindset, can I tell you, that'll create an attitude change within you that can spread to others. And then that attitude change can create an altitude change. God bless.